Hello, I'm Christy Johns from Australian Online News. Over 2 million Australians are impacted by bullying every year, and National Bullying Prevention Week kicks off today. Founder of Bully Zero, Ali Halkic, joins us from Melbourne. Ali, cyberbullying had a profound impact on your life.
Yes, going on to 11 years, we lost our only child, Allem, unfortunately, to online harassment and bullying. And basically, at that time, the social media network was just sort of kicking off, and us as parents not really understanding how exposed our children were home. And one of the biggest things that we understand now is that the false illusion of your child being home and in their bedroom, you assume that they were safe, and yet we provided this technology for them, and as parents we didn't understand what dangers were associated with that and how exposed your child was.
Were there any signs at all that Alan was in trouble?
Look, I mean, in all honesty, I replay this every day when I wake up and go to sleep, and looking from a distance now, and there was really no signs from him that we could tell. Once again, I think that us thinking that he was home and he was safe and wasn't getting in trouble, we weren't aware of any particular signs from him that he had any issues whatsoever.
How did you find out about the cyberbullying afterwards?
Well, as after he obviously passed away, there was police investigation just to cause of death, natural circumstances, and they asked to view his computer, and hence when they logged on, there was just amount of conversations were going with a certain individual, and I think also his friends that were involved as well. He was just sort of compounding on him for over a 2-3 week period, and unfortunately, he took his life at the end.
And you lobbied hard to get changes made to the Westgate Bridge following Allem's death, didn't you?
Look, I mean, the tragic part of all this was it was 3 days before Allem passed away. There was a young girl, Darcy Freeman, who unfortunately got thrown off by her father off the bridge. And we were sitting in the lounge and watching it, and he kind of said to me, "Dad, was it that easy for him to do that?" And, like being in shock and not understanding how someone could do that. And, when he got into that situation, I think he knew that that was an option for him at that stage. And unfortunately, he took that option, and it's something that, forever haunts me till today. Having an iconic bridge in the heart of Melbourne, and yet having so many people die, I think there was roughly around 566 deaths on that bridge. And as part of the community, unfortunately, we all turned a blind eye to it, and a stop had to come. And, the shame and guilt that I live within, and being aware of the situation, but not doing anything until it happened to me, I figured that it was important for us as a family to, try to prevent that landscape in Melbourne, the heart of Melbourne, and to try and make a difference to, potentially saving someone else's life.
And I read somewhere there's been no deaths since the barriers were put up. Is that correct?
Yeah, look, I mean, the reality of it is a change has made. And I think in the first year, as temporary barriers came up, I think there was like an 85% reduction, and there hasn't been a death recorded that I know of in the last 6 to 8 years. But not only that, I think the positive out of Allem's death, if there is such a positive, is the amount of awareness that has been created just with suicide as a whole. I mean, 11 years ago, no one wanted to know, and no one wanted to speak about youth suicide in particular, and how many people die from suicide overall. I think that alone was something that we needed to identify. And once we started looking into it more, and it was just horrifying how many people actually take their lives in Australia as a whole. Trying to make people aware was very, very challenging, because the stigma associated with a suicide and a young person, it always referred back to mental health or addiction or some form of abuse. And that wasn't our child, and it was important for us to represent him, for the beautiful young man he was. And he was loved by parents, and very stable, very had a good social network of friends, and yet he got placed in that situation. The first 2, 3 years, it was a challenge for us, but then when momentum started building, and the root cause started getting highlighted more and more, I think the last 5 years we've come a long way, that parents' awareness and education through schools and other formats have come to light to say, hey, this is a real danger for our family now. And it's something that a parent can't be taught. And it's not bad parenting, it's just, the awareness and education component of it is so crucial and critical as a parent to know that, hey, this could be a contributing factor to your child's upbringing. And in the worst case scenario, it could take a life, as it did with my son, Allem.
And you've set up this fantastic organisation, Bully Zero. So what have you got planned for National Bully Prevention Week?
Well, obviously we're launching the National Bully Conference this week, and it's kicking off today. I think the more communities kick in, and it's not just about one form of bullying, and I think the dangerous part about the word bullying is it's very subtle, and it's not confronting. We want people to understand that it has a lot of impact on it, and getting vast people from all types of industries and organisations to talk about how much it's actually impacting in society. I'm hoping that awareness will generate more people to understand that this is a thing that we can work together as a community, as a society, and work through to hear the professionals. And there's more research being done into it. And I think, the reality of life is if I had that much awareness 11 years ago, I could have made a change to, not only save my son's life, but, give him an opportunity to live as well. So,
can I just ask, have you ever had an apology from his bully?
One of these things is, unfortunately, when someone takes their life, they always point fingers at everything else. And I think with the law changes brought into Victoria, probably back in 2011, that if there's any contributing factor to someone taking their life, I think that the message has been sent out now. At that stage when Allem passed away, even though he got convicted of stalking a minor, that was the only law that could be passed against him. And 200 hours of community service for the price of my son's life, I think, is something that we struggle with, but the importance is we have to, focus on his smile and not worry about what he has to say or not to say, because he'll never bring our son back. So the reality of life is that the world has changed, and social media is here to stay, and understand and get involved with your child and know what they're doing. I think that we owe it to ourselves, and we owe it to our children just to educate them and make sure that they're safe. I think that if we all did a change with a tragedy that affects us, it'd make life better for the next person ahead of us. I think, keeping his smile alive, and I think the dignity of him as well is important for us as well. And no parent should lose a child under these circumstances. And unfortunately, kids from, I was reading an article from age of 5 to, 21 are taking their lives, and how that happens, it's beyond belief. And I'm sure these children are loved, and as Allem was as well. And there's just that reactive situation that a young person does, that, Allem did one thing wrong in his life, and that was not talk to his parents. And that's something that we can't fix. And that one lapse moment, in combination of his sleep deprivation and the accessibility at all hours of the night, and it's something that we live with guilt, because at the end of the day, as parents, you're a contributing factor to that, his loss as well, by not, we paid for that phone and we gave him the phone, and yet we weren't aware of the danger. So anyway.
You can't blame yourself.
No, I know, but I think with anything, if you look at the analogy, if they're learning how to drive, you've got to do 200 hours and all these type of things. So, you train your child, but this is just something that, it's a plague at the moment. And hopefully, with the work that you guys are doing and everything like that, appreciate all the awareness you're bringing as well.
No worries, and thank you for your time. If you or someone you know is being bullied, or if you want to get involved in National Bully Prevention Week, go to bullyzero.org.au. There is also advice for young people, parents and carers at esafety.gov.au.